All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today with us for the Cultural Grants Program webinar for 2026 and 2027. My name is Mouna Benboisa. I use she, her pronouns, and I am an acting arts manager at the City of Los Angeles Department Grants Division, Cultural Affairs within the Grants Division. I am joined today by my wonderful colleague, Ben Espinoza, who will say a few words and introduce himself.
Hi, very good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for taking some time to talk about the DCA's Cultural Grant Program with myself and Mouna today. A reminder, we're expecting a large group today, so we are keeping folks muted for smooth sailing. But we will entertain questions as we go throughout the presentation. You can take advantage of the chat window for that purpose. I will do my best to respond to questions on the fly, as well as group questions that are similar in nature for being addressed later. So please take advantage of today's chat feature, and a reminder to please keep yourself muted and to feel free to turn off your cameras, as we are recording today's session for posting on the DCA website and YouTube channel later on for future reference. Good to be here. I'm looking forward to spending some time with you these next few minutes.
Great. Thank you, Ben. Yes, as Ben just mentioned, feel free to use the chat throughout the meeting to ask us your questions. We will be monitoring the chat, and I will pause throughout the webinar so we can answer your questions. Speaking of the chat, I wanted to start the webinar by asking everybody here if you could indicate whether you are a returning applicant or a new applicant, and simply just indicate in the chat the number one, if you are a returning applicant, or number two, if you are a new applicant, just so we get a sense of people participating here. It's nice to have a sense of that. So just number one, if you are returning, and number two, if you are. And I see we have a good mix of both, which is very exciting. So thank you so much, everyone, for responding in the chat. Great to be with you all. So yeah, whether you are a returning applicant or a new applicant, this is a great time to talk about the DCA Cultural Grants Program, and we will go specifically over the guidelines for this year, and then in the second part of the webinar, we will go over the application, the portion itself in the SurveyMonkey Apply platform. This Cultural Grants Program application is for services to be completed between July 1st, 2026 and June 30th of 2027. So a little overview of our time together. We're scheduled for 90 minutes, but we will likely go a little bit over this time, as you know, this is a lot of information. And so as Ben said, feel free to stay with us as long as you can. And if not, the webinar will be posted on our DCA YouTube channel. Okay, great. So let's dive in. A little bit about DCA first. So DCA's mission is, as you know, to stimulate and strengthen the quality of life in Los Angeles by stimulating and supporting arts and cultural activities, ensuring public access to the arts for residents and visitors alike. And so one of the ways that we do that is through our grants program, including the Cultural Grants Program. This grants program, a little bit over the funding, it is funded by the transit occupation tax that is collected by the city. So that is taxes from hotels, from visitors who come to LA. And then our department uses a portion of this money to reinvest in nonprofit organizations throughout the city to provide free and low-cost art services for the general public. So that's about $3 million that we receive each year for this program, and we use that money. And we have a portfolio of over 350 plus organizations, nonprofit organizations across the city. And through that, we reach about 2 million people each year, thanks to that level. All right. And okay, so we have different kinds of when you apply for the cultural grants program, you can request different types of grant requests depending on your organization budget size and your type of projects. We'll talk a little. I'll talk about that in a moment. But the average grants across our portfolio is $10,000. Okay, eligibility. Quite an important slide. So first and foremost, your organization has to be a 501c3 nonprofit with an arts and culture mission. And that's the case of most of our applicants, most of you probably here. So to make sure that you are, that does this fits, take a look at your board approved mission statement and make sure that, there is fairly soon in the mission statement something related to the arts that your organization provides. And then if you're not an arts and culture organization, then we have another grant category for you, and that's if you are producing an outdoor festival. In that case, you can partner with an arts and culture nonprofits organization and propose an outdoor festival or parade project. Again, we'll go a little bit more into that later in the webinar. Another very important criteria is that you must be based in Los Angeles County. And that's really important. A lot of our grantees are based in the city of Los Angeles, but we do have grantees that are based in other cities such as Culver City, Santa Monica, West Hollywood, Pasadena. So that's totally fine as long as the services that you propose will take place in the city of Los Angeles, as we are the city of LA. We are a project funder, not a general operating program, funder. So you will be asked to describe the project that you want to make bigger, stronger, and faster thanks to this DCA funding. And it must be a project that you've done at least once in the past. And that way you can show us the metrics of that past project. You can use that existing metrics showing us who attended, how many people came, how you reached them, etc., etc. So that's very important. Basically, tell us how successful it was, show it in the application, and explain how the city funding would make it bigger, stronger, faster. The last line here says project category specific qualifications, and we will go over this in a moment.
Yeah. Muna, I'll pause for a moment. We have a question regarding fiscally sponsored organizations. If you allow me, I'll respond to that. As a general rule, our grant programs are limited to independent incorporated 501c3 nonprofits only. There is one exception to that. In downtown Los Angeles, based in LA, we have a business incubator called Community Partners that LA City works very closely with. Under Community Partners are housed a range of public benefit projects or programs or like organizations, projects that have the potential to grow into independent nonprofits later on. So if you are a project under Community Partners, you may be eligible for funding support through our cultural grant program. Otherwise, no fiscally sponsored organizations are not allowed to apply.
Perfect. Thank you, Ben. That's a very good question. Okay. Now let's spend some time on talking about administrative considerations. And that's really, we included this slide this year to make sure that you not only know about the application process, but you also know what to expect from the city, from being a vendor for the city, from being a grantee, especially if you are a new applicant. So if you are recommended for funding, you will receive a city contract for public services next year in May or June of 2026. And there will be multiple administrative expectations and to fulfill. For example, you will need to be registered as a vendor with the city. You will need to have a current business tax registration certificate with the city of Office of Finance. In addition, you will need to have to maintain at least a $1 million general liability policy. And if you have employees, people who receive W-2s, you are required by California law that you maintain workers' compensation insurance. So that's something that our risk management office requires and something to keep in mind. Then our grants are matching grants. We will never, and you are asked to match us on a one-to-one basis. So that is 50% of the total project expenses will be the grant funding that you will receive, and then you will show us how you're matching with another source of funding. So basically, we never pay for the total of your project. And speaking of payment, an important note is that typically you are paid on a reimbursement basis. We are reimbursement grants. And also one thing we wanted to mention is that we are seeing more and more delays in the city contracting process. And that means that that delays also the time by when you receive your executed contract. And it's only when you have that executed contract that you can invoice us. So if you propose a project that will take place in the summer of 2026, please keep in mind that you may not be able to receive your executed contract very quickly, and so you may not be able to invoice us from the get-go. However, if you propose a project that will take place later in the fiscal year, then there are more chances that you will have received an executed contract by then.
I'll pause here as well. I have a couple of great questions regarding our definition of a project and some additional questions regarding the city's insurance requirements. I'll address the questions around insurance first. If recommended for funding, organizations are required to maintain a liability policy of $1 million coverage for covering incidents that might result from any event that the city sponsors. So it's not a $1 million bond. It's an insurance policy, basically. Alternatively, we have lots of organizations who request funding for projects of very short duration. For example, an outdoor event that may take place only one day in a weekend in the month of March. In those instances, some applicants pursue event or special insurance only that fulfills the city's insurance requirements of $1 million liability. One additional insurance consideration to keep in mind lately are the city risk manager for projects that emphasize lots of work working with kids, especially youth under age 12, may be asked to provide sexual molestation coverage as well. So these are all policies that may be asked of recommended grantees should their projects be funded. A second question regarding our definition of a project. It's a great question. We don't support year-round activities or an organization's programmatic offerings over a 12-month period. We define a project as a subset of those activities that you've structured and scoped out to align with our funding priorities, which we'll go over in a little bit. So a common example might be, you might be a youth arts education group who works with, a portfolio of 100 schools across LA Unified. You might define a project as a subset of that as, we're going to identify 1 or 2 or 3 school partners in Van Nuys that we're going to define as our project for DCA. So we're going to work with that school, and our teaching artists work with those 3 schools and their student body, culminating in 3 presentations in Van Nuys, the 6th council district. That's what we're defining as a project. Another part of this question that we received here is, beyond the subset of activities of your programmatic activities, you want to tell us about something you've done before. And so to Muna's point about making a project better, faster, stronger, better, you want to be able to tell us about a programmatic activity, a project you've done in the past, with a case for how a DCA investment can make it enhanced. So you want to be able to tell us about what your next iteration of that project would be and how a city investment make it better. Would a city investment make it more accessible to the public? Will you reach new audiences? Will it reduce the ticket price from $50 to $25? These are things about the project you've done in the past, about how they could be improved with the city investment. So I hope that answers some of the question about what we define as a project. And another question regarding workers' compensation insurance. Yes. So if you have employees, these are people in payroll. California law requires you to maintain workers' compensation insurance, and that's even in cases if you're a nonprofit and you have only one salaried employee. The state does require you to maintain a workers' compensation insurance coverage for that one person. All right, Muna, back to you.
Perfect. And we are going to talk a lot more about the project categories and the project types. So this is the artistic project category that you see on the screen here. And that's the majority of our proposals. Most applicants propose an artistic projects. So artistic projects are free low-cost presentations to the public where you are, involving and working with artists and arts administrators who are professionals in their fields and are hired to, perform roles that are commensurate with the skills, talents, and status described in their resumes and biographies. And that's something that, the panelists who adjudicate your proposals really look at. Some examples of artistic projects may be live readings, in the literature category, in the literature discipline, creative writing workshops as well for literature, discussions with author presenting their newest publication, things like that. For media, it could be a series of film screenings, open to the public, and then with talks with experts, things like that. So here to the right of the screen, you have all the eligible project disciplines listed. And we are in an odd calendar year, and in odd calendar years, those are the proposal disciplines that we solicit. So as you can see, design and visual arts is one. Then you have literary arts, media arts, traditional folk arts, and culture history. Traditional folk arts and culture history are put together, but there is an important distinction here. So traditional folk arts is typically for projects that help continue, the tradition of some artistic components, and in culture history is for projects that emphasize the work of an artist that is no longer living. And maybe Ben will put the exact definitions in the chat for people who are interested. So one thing to note, if you're an organization with projects in dance, music, theater, multidisciplinary, transdisciplinary, this is not the year to apply. This will be next year. Please visit us again next year at this time. So we have many project categories, and we will gather panel experts who are experts in these fields. For example, if this is a literary arts panel, we will gather literary arts experts, and they will be the one adjudicating your proposal. And one of the reasons we work on odd calendar year and even calendar year is that we have budget and staff constraints. So this is why we have this system to lower the burden. It's also lower the burdens on our nonprofit organizations who apply, who don't need to submit a new proposal every year. Great. So again, most of the proposals will be in this category. Now, the next big categories that we have is the outdoor festivals and parade. And we really like these types of projects because they, as you can imagine, they reach a large number of people. We have a pretty clear definition of what is an outdoor festival. So I want to make sure that I read it here. So it is an outdoor event at a single public space, for example, a street, a park, a sidewalk, a set of adjacent streets, a public plaza, over one day or over one weekend, and where you are presenting a thematic set of artists and groups. Generally, festival projects are annual, seasonal, quarterly, or monthly, and they may include events such as art walks. Regarding the artists or groups you are presenting, we like that those are not affiliated with your organization. So a common challenge we see is that an applicant will be proposing a project with artists that are actually affiliated with their organization, and that's not and whether you can have that to a minimum, that's not exactly the definition that we have. So it's really an event where you are presenting a range of musicians or other artists, because even though we are focusing on non-performing arts disciplines, as I mentioned in the previous slide, for festival that does not apply. So you can propose a festival with, of course, performing arts disciplines. So you can propose a festival with musicians, spoken words artists, etc., etc. And we also want you to rotate the list of artists that you present each year. So we don't want the exact same list every year. Please show us that you are working with a roster of new artists at least, and we are listing in our guidelines the percentage that we want to see. So another parameter to consider is the size of your event, and we have 3 tiers. So Tier 1 is for an event that has gathered fewer than 500 people in the previous year. Tier 2 is for events that an event that gathered between 500 and 2,000 people in the previous year. And then Tier 3 is this large festival, more than 2,000 people. For example, an annual parade where multiple streets are closed. Yeah, and then as mentioned, we have a little bit more flexibility in the artistic disciplines. It doesn't that your festival emphasizes. So if you are proposing just a music festival, it is perfectly eligible this year. But we do strongly encourage the festivals in the disciplines that I mentioned earlier. So literature, arts, design, visual, traditional and folk arts, media, etc., etc. Okay, maybe I'll pause here for questions.
Yeah, I have some questions in the chat here. We have a question from Allison who asked about what types of events should not apply this year. Assuming, Allison, you're referencing outdoor festival and parade type of events, as Muna just mentioned, unlike the artistic project category, we have some flexibility in the outdoor festival and parade category, where we can entertain projects that emphasize a more performing arts-based discipline. So music festivals, outdoor festivals that feature a range of dance companies, like a dance festival, can be eligible in this category this year. Question regarding average grant awards in this category. That's also, it varies greatly. Given the 3 tiers here, we support, very small pop-ups, just like a community neighborhood pop-up at a small plaza can have as few as 300 people, with very large events like the Thai New Year parade along Hollywood Boulevard, where you can get well over 12,000 people. And so grant amounts can vary greatly there. At a tier 3 level, you can request up to $40,000 towards a project of $80,000 or more. Based on the city budget, these last several years, folks requesting $40,000 to score very well tend to get just under half of what they are requesting. At the tier 1 level, these are very small events. Again, people can request between, anywhere between $3,000 to $5,000. And on average, given the way our budget has been set these last several years, folks get on average, just under half of what they request if they score very well in the competitive peer review process. We have a question here from as well, film festivals. Film festivals are not outdoor festivals and parades for us. Those are artistic projects. Film festivals are absolutely welcome this cycle under the media arts category. We have a question here regarding matching requirements. Yes, as was one of the things we called out in the very first slide, because sometimes it surprises folks. Government grants often require a match, and we are not an exception. Our grants do require a minimum one-to-one match that can be met in a combination of cash and in-kind donated services and materials. All right, back to you, Muna.
All right, thank you, Ben. Okay, so we have two other project categories. Those are much less common, but those are, first of all, we have the SailCap category and then the FASL category. The SailCap category stands for Sequential Arts in School Learning, culminating in after-school public event. And we have this category because DCA is not an education funder. We typically fund free or low-cost arts services for the general public. But we know that a lot of our arts organizations and nonprofits do provide projects in schools and work for multiple weeks in schools. So that's why we have this category where we are able to support in-school activities that are standards aligned, that have a standards aligned detailed curriculum, as long as you make sure you produce a culminating event that is promoted to and open to the general public. So that is extremely important. So your culminating events should take place after school hours, in the evening or during the weekend, so that anybody from the public, Ben, for example, or I, can go and attend this event. If you are proposing a project and that the culminating event takes place during school hours, you are not eligible to apply. So if you have any questions about that, you can email us to confirm, but just some examples: multi-week creative residencies, workshop series where teaching artists are working with students and then have a culminating showcase. Those are some examples of SailCap projects. Some good advice for this: if you're applying in this category, please include a curriculum and 2 samples lessons at least in your proposal to demonstrate the deep learning and quality of your project. Moving on to the FASL category. So this one stands for Field Advocacy and Sector Learning. And it's for projects that really are not artistic presentations per se, but projects that are business trainings for artists, professional conferences, peer-to-peer learning gatherings among artists and arts administrators, really projects that will support the growth of the field. Applicants in this category propose field building activities or forums. And we recommend for this one too, that you reach out to our staff to discuss your project. So please do that as soon as possible, as the deadline for the application is next Friday, next week, the 29th. But again, most of the proposals do not fall into the FASL category. All right, now also important, what are the allowable project and activities? So they are listed here, and because we are a city agency, a public agency, we do not fund private invitation-only events such as fundraisers, press events, and galas, as those events are typically not open to the public. We also do not fund activities, and we make the distinction, and there are 2 ways to look at that. First, the cost of admission. So decades of DCA-funded activities should be affordable, accessible, and we think of that as the average cost of a movie theater ticket, about $35 max. And then the second dimension is also, this should not be expensive on a cost per head, on a project cost per head basis. So what is the cost per head? The cost per head is the total cost of your project divided by the total number of people you're engaging as part of your project. Cost per head will vary depending on projects that are proposed. Some of them will be extremely thrifty. I'm thinking of very large festivals that will reach a lot of people. And some others will be higher, for example, for projects that have really deep learning that happens over multiple weeks. And we understand that the cost per head here might be higher. However, if it's really, really high, then please keep in mind that this will appear as a common as a pitfall in your application. So if you have any question, reach out to us about that. In the case of a deep learning of project with a deep learning dimension, a cost per head of $100 or $200 per person would be acceptable. Other things we do not fund: arts contest and competition. We liked projects that showcase everyone as a winner. Projects that are primarily religious in nature or intent. We like to support events with broad appeal. So we gave the example of if you're thinking of proposing a Christmas themed event, maybe frame the event differently so that you can say it's a holiday themed event, and that when you are also thinking of your marketing and outreach, you can also frame the event and attract as many people as possible. We do not fund open mic events or open call projects because we don't know and you don't know who the artist will be, and you can tell the panelists about the artists. Open mics are quite risky for the city of Los Angeles, as we don't know the themes that the artist might present, and that prevents a liability risk for the city. Very important, we also have some ineligible expenses: travel, food, hospitality, insurance, cash prizes and award, capital improvements, and purchasing depreciable assets. So those should not be part of the DCA grant request. They can appear in your grant budget, but please indicate in the budget notes that they will be part of the matching funds. Okay, yeah. Just going back to our priorities for the Cultural Grants Program. So as we mentioned earlier, one of the priorities of this program is to make sure that there are free local arts activities and events that are open to the public. We are also a local jobs creator, so we want to see that your project is going to support artists and arts workers. Most of your grant requests should actually be going towards paying fees for artists and arts workers. And as mentioned earlier, paying artists is also paying artists, but also your arts administrators, all your arts workers. One thing that we want to mention also is that we want to see collaboration between arts organization and non-art social service organization, especially starting this year particularly. We want to see more of that. So an example is a project where an arts organization collaborates with social service agencies and works with their communities and uses their spaces and venues for the public presentation. We would like to see more non-traditional arts venues proposed in applications. So for some examples are community centers, outdoor public spaces, public parks. It's one of the ways for us to see that we can spread out the art services throughout the city. And also to make sure that a lot of projects reach diverse communities, especially within arts underserved council districts of the city.
Muna, before you advance to the next slide, I think I take this moment as well. Going back to that great question about projects and how we define a project. So this is a great slide to consider as you take stock of what your organization does over the course of a year, and you start to package what kind of good project for DCA look like. Remember these 5 bullet points. I mean, to the extent that you can pick a series of activities and presentations that address the most of, if not all of these items, it would only suit you well in the competition. If you let's say you're working with a range of artist collectives and you have a series of exhibitions planned for the coming year, you have one show where it's going to be a single retrospective and you're going to pay one artist for that show, versus you have another one that's a group show where you have an opportunity to highlight and pay several artists. It might be a good idea to propose the latter project instead, because you're meeting our priority for funding many local jobs. If you have a range of events, or if you have a range of, if you have a literary arts reading where you have a series where you're charging $25 tickets, and you have is there an opportunity for you to use a grant to, underwrite some of the costs of producing that event so you can charge folks $10 or less? If you have a range of activities planned throughout the city of LA, you have stuff taking place in Hollywood and downtown LA and arts in the arts district, but maybe you also have a partnership with a nonprofit social service agency out in Pacoima, Sunland Tahunga, South LA and Crenshaw. Maybe that those partnerships might be worth exploring more for this project, as you would be achieving a geographic priority for the city.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Excellent. And here's the map of the city of Los Angeles. So let's take a look. You can see represented here each of the 15 council districts of the city. And they are represented by a different color here. So first of all, if you are proposing a project outside of the city, it is a no-no. Outside of this council district, it is ineligible. And then when we wanted to highlight also the council districts that are arts underserved, so the council district where there are not a lot of art services. So here they are, and that we have highlighted them here. You can see the valley, so council district 3, 12, 7. So that's West Hills, Canoga Park, Silmar, Sunland, Tahunga, Pacoima, and so on. And then you see also council district 8 and 9, that's South LA. And then the west side with council district 11, we have noticed for the past few years that there's less and less, there's fewer art services there. So it is becoming also an arts, less, council district with fewer art services. So you can access these maps. We will put the link in the chat, and those are really useful tools to, search an address and see where the venue you are thinking of is located. It will show you exactly in which council district it is, and it will also show you if it's not in the council district you're thinking of. Okay. Well, I'll just pause very quickly for a question about geography because we're moving on to something different. So are there any questions about geography or council districts?
Not seeing any at the moment. But I might call out for folks as you research potential locations and venues, make sure there is you recognize a distinction between the City of LA council districts and the County of Los Angeles supervisorial districts. Oftentimes, we might see some proposals thinking they are in the second council district when actually they're proposing something in the second supervisorial county district, oftentimes outside of the city of LA, and it's not eligible. So be mindful of that distinction. It's not uncommon to conflate the city of LA and county of LA. A reminder, we are the city of LA, and we are interested in projects taking place within the municipal boundaries of the city of LA.
Yes, indeed. That's a very good point. Okay. So
La Cañada, Flint Ridge is outside of LA City. I'm sorry, Jay.
All right. And now I want to talk about the organization, financial, and programmatic profile. So if you are a returning applicant, you may have noticed that already. And this is a big change compared to previous years. Starting this cycle, we are no longer requiring you to fill out a data arts funders report. for the DCA application. Instead, our team has created this Excel sheet that you will complete. It looks very much like the data arts funders report, but it has been streamlined. And it's still going to take some time for you to complete, because we are requiring for all applicants, for most of all applicants, that you provide those numbers for at least 2 completed fiscal years. So as you can see here, we have listed fiscal year 2023, fiscal year 2024, and fiscal year 2025. We understand that for some of you, your fiscal year 2025 may not be completed, or you may still be, waiting for the data from this year. So in that case, please make sure to fill out fiscal year 2023, and 2024. However, if it is completed, if you have everything, include the 3 fiscal years. Ideally, the 3 fiscal years should be present. So again, we need to see at least 2 years of your operating history represented there. And then this is based on this tool. Based on this Excel sheet, you will be able to. It will help you determine your max allowable grant request. We'll talk about that. Oh, my apologies. No. Talk about that in a minute. There is a line there where you will input your total revenue less in kind, and that's what you'll use to calculate your max allowable grant request.
Thank you, Mouna. I have a quick question from Melissa regarding the financial form. In instances when you have lots of 10% plus variances, I agree it's sensible and reasonable to include a single paragraph in the form. There's an endnote section on the form where you can provide a consistent explanation for those things. Panelists will be able to see that, and it's a good thing to do, include a note about that, so you can assuage any fears panelists might have if they see lots of variances from year to year. I have a question from Allison regarding the city of Culver City. A reminder that Culver City and other municipalities like the city of Beverly Hills, the city of Santa Monica, the city of Inglewood are separate municipalities that fall outside of the boundaries of our funding area. So any activities in those cities are not allowable for funding consideration. I'll note though, we have lots of organizations who are not based in LA City. They might be based in Santa Monica, Beverly Hills, city of West Hollywood, who would otherwise be eligible, but they propose project activities within the city of LA. And in that way, organizations who aren't based in LA City can propose eligible projects in the city of LA. So Allison, you might take stock of the programmatic offerings your organization does, and to see what, if any of them, take place in the city of LA, and if thereabouts is a potential eligible project. And that way, you would be welcome to apply, provided your organization is an eligible applicant.
Yeah, indeed. Okay. Well, before we dive into the application itself, I have a couple more things to say about the max allowable request and the one-to-one match requirement. So once you have, completed that profile that we just talked about, this is where you'll use that line saying what is your total revenue less in kind to determine what is your max allowable grant request. And that will be based also on your budget, your organization budget size, category, the operating revenue, the proposed project type, and your estimated total project budget. And here are the different sizes, nonprofit organization sizes for the cultural grants program. And you can see here what your maximum allowable, what the maximum percentage is. So for extra large budget organization, which we call XLBO, this is for organizations with prior operating budgets consistently of 10 million or greater, and you may request up to 4% of your most recently completed fiscal year budget to a maximum of $80,000. So that's that. And then you have the large budget organization. So this is for nonprofit organizations with prior operating budgets consistently greater than $800,000. In this case, you can request up to 4% of your most recently completed fiscal year budget to a maximum of $80,000. Mid-size organization, this is a lot of our, a big portion of our applicants fall into this budget size. A mid-sized nonprofit arts organization has an operating budget greater than $75,000 in your most recently completed fiscal year, and you may request up to 10% of your last completed fiscal year budget to a maximum of $40,000. We also have the small organizations budget. This is for organization with an operating budget between $10,000 and $100,000 in your most recently completed fiscal year. Here you can request up to 20% of your last completed fiscal year, up to a maximum of $10,000. As you can see, there is some overlap between the small arts organization and the mid-sized organization, so that you can decide, where your organization fits here and is better suited for applying. Then we have the emerging arts organization. This is for very small arts, nonprofits organization or arts organization that just started. It is if you have an operating budget of less than $20,000 in your most recently completed fiscal year, or if you are a newly incorporated organization with fewer than 2 completed fiscal years. And then here you can request between $1,500 and $3,000 for an artistic project. And then, as mentioned earlier, you also have the festival categories and the 3 tiers. So the tier 1 for events of fewer than 500 people, you can request up to $6,000 if your festival parade gathered fewer than the 500 attendees in the prior year. Tier 2, you can request up to $15,000 if your festival parade gathered between 500 and 2,000 in-person attendees. And Tier 3, you can request $40,000 if you attracted more than 2,000 in-person attendees. So really, you can find all this information on our guidelines, and it's going to determine your grant request. Let's talk about timeline, and then we'll pause for questions before we dive into the application portion. So this is the timeline for the Cultural Grants Program application and then process. So we are in step 1. This is where you are registering for and logging into your SurveyMonkey Apply account. You are creating your account. Then step 2 is next week already. So please make sure to fill out and submit your online application for the Cultural Grants Program by next Friday, August 29. After that, you must print a hard copy of your completed application, sign a certification form, and you must mail it to the DCA Grants Office. It must be postmarked by September 3rd, 2025. Okay, after that, you don't hear from us for a while, as we are busy auditing proposals, gathering panelists, for panel review meetings. And then the city enters into its budget season around March, April. The city budget gets announced around April and May, and then DCA Grants after that is able to send your notifications and results to applicants. That will be May, June of 2026. And then step 5, for projects that are selected for funding, we will be meeting with you, and we will be starting the contracting process, and your services must take place during the grant period of July 1st, 2026 to June 30th, 2027. So this is the timeline. All right, so as mentioned, I'll just pause here for questions before the next part.
No questions in the chat at the moment, Una.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, great. So let me. Okay, so now we're gonna get back to the.
We got one question from Emily regarding best advice for a first-time applicant. I love that question. And one of the things I'd recommend for a first-time applicant beyond signing up for the webinar, so definitely kudos for doing that, is check out the main welcome page of the Cultural Grants Program guidelines. I'll put a link to it here. On this page, you'll see it's kind of like a very quick to the point bullet point list of our priorities and key considerations. In the very bottom there are 7 bits of strategic advice that we've kind of been touching upon during the first hour of this session. But go through those 7 tidbits of advice to help you shape your project proposal so that you can present it in the most competitive way as possible. That's a good starting point beyond attending today's session. So take a look at that and continue paying attention to as we go through the application. I'm sure additional questions will arise as you do so.
Yeah, great question. Okay, folks, let's talk about the second part, which is the application in itself. So you will find the link to the application in the guidelines under the apply page. So this is where you'll click, and then you will be directed to another platform, which is called SurveyMonkey Apply. And I'm going to share my screen and show you. We're going to go over each step together. So the first thing you'll need to do is you'll need to create an account. So once you are directed to this link to SurveyMonkey Apply, which is a third-party platform that we've been using for a couple of years now, you'll need to create an account. So you'll need to register, and you'll need to register as a nonprofit organization. Once you register, you will log in again into your account. And then, so let's say I created my account, I've just logged in, and this is what I see. I see no applications. And that's very strange. Why am I not seeing the DCA Cultural Grants Program application? Well, an important thing to remember is that you must be applying as a nonprofit organization. So on the left here, you see my name as an individual, and then you see the name of my organization, my nonprofit organization. So you're going to click that. You're going to make sure to click that so that you can be considered as a nonprofit. And then, the grant program application appears. So I've created here a test account, a test application, and we're going to use that to go over the process together. So you're going to click on that green button, and you're going to see the different section of the application. If you have a green check mark, it means you have completed that section. If you have a half empty circle, it means that task is still in progress. And then tasks that have not been completed are indicated by a circle with multiple dots, the gray, circle. So let's proceed then with the first part. And this is the organization grant proposal. It is the heaviest part of your provision because it consists of a series of different narrative questions where you tell us about your organization, the history of your organization, your mission, the project you're going to propose, all of these things. So the first thing is you're going to provide some very basic information. First of all, your official IRS name. Please enter that name in all caps, and it should really appear as it is, as it appears on your IRS nonprofit determination letter. Then, if you have a popular name, please indicate it as well if it is different. important information like your street address, your address, and then your mailing address, your primary contact. And that will be the person who will be receiving the notification of results in May or June of next year. So make sure, and then you also have the option to add an alternate contact person in case, there are changes in your organization. So make sure to complete everything here correctly. After that, we ask you to indicate the project type. Remember, you can choose between an artistic project, an outdoor festival, or parade, and then the two other project types are the Sailcade project and the Vassal project. Here, I've selected the Tier 2 outdoor festival parade. Okay. I am also indicated that I will be presenting at least 30 or 40% of new artists as compared to the past 2 years. Remember, we talked about the importance of including new artists in the roster and not redoing the exact roster. Okay. All right. And after that, you will also select the size of your organization and you will just indicate it. You will also be asked to enter your grant amount request. So please make sure to use our grant calculator to determine your maximum allowable grant request, which again, you will be asked, you will need to know the total, your total revenue less in kind for that. The next thing is please indicate where you are headquartered, if it is, so which council districts of the city of LA you are headquartered in. If it's outside of the city of Los Angeles, I think you have the option to select somewhere else in Los Angeles County. And the next question, question F, asks you to indicate which council district that you are going to have your services in. So I've indicated here Council District 5 as well as Council District 8. And I've indicated that I'm not proposing online services, but if you are, that is perfectly fine to indicate that. So you'll just click yes. The next section, G, is the project start and end date. Remember, we are a project funder, so your proposed project should not be longer than 9 months. And in any case, we encourage you to propose a project that takes place within 6 months. That's really ideal for us. Here I've indicated that it takes place in 1 day as it is a small outdoor festival. And then question H is the public impact of your proposed services. So basically, who are you involving? Who are your project participants? So artists, instructors, students, volunteers, and then how many people do you estimate you will be reaching? If you have any special constituency or target groups, you will also indicate them here. I've indicated low-income families or persons and parents with guardians with children. I think for this one, it may be just 2, but I'm not sure about that. But please, if you have more target groups than 2, try to select at least the ones that are, your top target groups. All right, then we get to part 2, your organization narrative. Very, very important part. And question A is mission, the purpose of the applicants. So this is really your board-approved organization mission statement that you will be copying here. It should really demonstrate what your organization does, and hopefully your project really fits with your organization missions. The next 2 sections is the next 2 questions. Question B is question C. Tell us a little bit more about your organization, your history, your programming, how the planning and leadership, how do you see yourself? Where do you see your organization within the next 2 years? What are some goals that you have? And, what planning do you have for the next, the short term? Okay, and then we also have the community core audience. This is a section where you can tell us more about what is your typical community or core audience, and you can tell us, about the geography, the age of the people you reach, their cultural and economic characteristics, if applicable. And very important here to take the opportunity to show us how your program are going to meet the community and their needs. For the artistic policy, which is question E, you can describe the process for making artistic decisions in your organization, as well as your practice for paying artists. So that was the section 2. After that, we have the project narrative. This really gets into your proposed project. And in question F, you will be describing your project for which you are seeking DCA funding. We have given you a small template here, as we found that it works really well to encapsulate the spirit of your project. So as you can see here, we recommend following this format. We are seeking DCA support to produce and present 3 educational workshops and 2 public culminating concerts that will take place in the fall of 2024 in South LA. The 5 activities detailed below are a subset of an annual program of 9 workshops and 6 concerts in 3 other regions of LA County that are briefly mentioned as context. So as you can see here, we ask you to be really specific, how many services are you requesting support for? When are they going to take place? What are they part of? Give us the context. Be as explicit and specific as you can, while also being straight to the point. Okay, so that's where you will describe your project.
I'll pause here, Muna. I have a question regarding a question where applicants have an opportunity to explain their practice and policies for paying artists. We've seen a wide range of applicants come to us with varying kind of policies around this. We have some artist collectives, a lot of organizations that work primarily with artists who like to volunteer their time. So sometimes organizations are not accustomed to the practice of paying artists because they work on a volunteer basis, and they come to us with a plan for how they can reconcile that with our priority for paying artists. For example, asking some of the volunteers to take on greater roles and responsibilities so that they can earn an honorarium. We have organizations who underscore living wages and super competitive wages for their artists, for their teaching artists, for their artistic staff, and they will explain in narrative format, their approach to that. So, if your question, so literally, yes. So we are interested in understanding which organizations' attitude, idea, and approach for paying the artists that you work with are, so that panelists can understand how that aligns with your mission, with your proposed project, and how it aligns with our priority as a funder of paying artists here in the city.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Great. Thanks, Ben. So, yeah, we talked about your project here, the project description, and then next is the prior outcomes and outputs of your, you will, based on your prior outcomes and outputs, you will describe here the feasible impact that you think you can have with this project. So that means tell us about the attendance you expect, the participants, what kind of qualitative or quantitative tools you will have to demonstrate that your project is successful. So that's for that. And then, so that's the narrative element with the project description. And then you will have part 4 with the staff and artists. And I forgot to mention earlier, but you may have noticed this little suns here next to some questions. And that means that these questions are other funders, again, they can be found in other funders' applications. Is that correct, Ben?
That's right. And so there's a beyond not just us here at City of LA, but we have communication with the other municipalities in our region, with Los Angeles County, City of West Hollywood, City of Culver City, for example, who all run their own grant programs. So if you happen to serve, various geographies, you might be accustomed to seeing their grant proposals as well. And these are some shared questions. So oftentimes you can simply copy and paste what you provided to the City of West Hollywood into our own grant proposal here.
Exactly. Okay. So that's what this icon represents. We have now come to the part where you will be asked to list the staff and the artist, for the applicant. We typically recommend that you begin with the applicant's leaders, your artistic director, executive director, managing director. But not only, please also include the planned roster of your artists, the creative workers that you plan to bring on for your project, and you can add as many as you want. This is a section that panelists really look at to also take into account the artistic quality of your proposed project. So here I click no, would you like to add more members? But we really recommend you to click yes and add more artists or art workers if that is applicable to your project. Okay, so that was part 2 of the proposal, and that was the entire narrative sections. We've come to part 3, which is all about your numbers. And in this section, you will provide the budgets. So again, a reminder that this is your project budget, not a program budget. So not, the entire year for your programs, or not your organization's operating budget. This is really the project budget for the project you are proposing for DCA funding. As you can see on the right, you have the budget notes, and again, one tip is to really take advantage of that section and include as many budget notes as possible. And then, so that is where the part A is the earned income. This is where you will indicate your earned income here. You have different sections. I've included a lot of budget notes here. And then you have contributed income, so board contributions, individual contributions, corporate foundations. Line 21 is important. This is the DCA grant request. So this is where you will put the max allowable grant request that you've calculated then based on the grant calculator tool. And it's really important you don't complete it. You don't forget it, sorry, because this would be considered an administrative error. So line 21, very, very important that you indicate your DCA cultural art request. And then this is also where you can indicate your matching funds. So for example, if you're gonna use some other grants or other funding, foundation funding to match the DCA grant, you can indicate it in the budget notes. So I've come to a total granted income, and I have some sections if I want to provide more information about the different sources of income for corporate, foundation, and government. Okay, next section of the project budget is the proposal expenses. So for example, the salaries and fringe for your artists and performers, your creative workers, your administrative salaries. This is where you show us, among others, where you pay people. And a reminder here is that one of DCA's priority is paying artists. So again, a big portion of your grant funding should be allocated for paying artists. After that, you have your operating expenses for the project. So accounting, advertising, artist commission fee, catering and hospitality, conferences, equipment rental. As you can see, some of them are cannot be funded by DCA support. We talked about catering and hospitality, insurance, travel, but you can show us that it will be covered by your matching fund, that you are, that not only shows us that, you are using the budget notes, but that you also were aware of the guidelines and that you know that these funds cannot be used for these unallowable expenses. Okay, after that, I have come to a grant total expenses, and this plus divided by the number of people that I'm going to engage for the project will give me my cost per head ratio. For a festival project, this is a very high cost per head ratio. It should be, typically festival projects are very, very, very low cost per head, under $10 for sure. So this would raise questions from panelists here. Yes, so just something to keep in mind.
It's a great thing to highlight, though, because as you go through this process of filling out your project budget and you're finding, yeah, I'm doing an outdoor festival, I'm achieving a cost rate of $44. Is there something I can do to my project to make it more right-sized for DCA funding? And so things to consider are, is my marketing strategy sound enough so should I be expecting many more people to attend this event that's outdoors in the public park, visible for passersby, motorists? Maybe I'm underestimating how many people are showing up. Secondly, you might take a look at your expenses. Am I including VIP or super expensive components to this that maybe I can extract out of the scope of my project, thereby reducing my total project budget, getting me a cost per head ratio of somewhere, under $20 or so, where we see most of our outdoor festival parade projects. So it's an example, Muna, of something that is something that you should keep an eye on. So it gives you a chance to course correct and make adjustments to your proposal as you're preparing it. I'll highlight a couple other things if you allow me on the project budget. Common pitfalls in this section is a very important section, as Muna underscored. Number one, oftentimes we have folks submitting their organization budget here. That's already kind of a big no-no. Remember that we are a project funder, not an operating funder. Take stock of what you wrote in the narrative section. If your project is to produce and present 2 design visual exhibitions accompanied by 3 public programs, I want to know the cost of producing those 4 items in this project budget and the associated revenues to make it happen. So that's pitfall number 1. Pitfall number 2, as Muna mentioned, is not including the city grant request into your planned revenue sources. If you do that, you've basically presented to the panel a project that you can fund without DCA support. You don't want to do that. And the third pitfall is forgetting our one-to-one matching requirement. We can never pay for a project at 100%. So your revenues plan needs to incorporate at least sources that will account for at least half of the total project budget. In fact, panelists love seeing a robust, diverse bench of potential funders in the range of private donations, board contributions, foundation money, county money, things like that, to show that there's a lot of community buy-in for the activities you're proposing. So if you include the DCA budget, DCA request as the only source of funding, that's a big flag for our panelists. Number one, we have to reduce your grant ask by 50%, and that already kind of shoots yourself in the foot in the competition. And it suggests to the panel that there's not a lot of community buy-in and investment into this to make sure it's successful if recommended for funding. So you want to avoid that. Back to you.
Exactly. All right, so now you've come to the end of this section, and you will mark the section as complete and then move on to the next one.
Muna, we got a couple of great questions regarding cost per head and sweet spot range.
Yes.
Across the portfolio, I want to see we see cost per head ratios. What's the average, would you say? Is it something like, would you say like around the $20, $25 range?
2025, yes.
Yeah. But the
2025.
average is not a great metric because as Muna mentioned earlier, DCA likes funding a wide range of projects from a low touch, like vinyl mural posted on the chain link fence where thousands of motorists pass by it every day. Cost per head ratio for that, it's going to be maybe less than $1, probably
Mhm.
to the pennies versus a multi-week creative writing residency working with middle school kids in South LA. You're working with the same 30 middle schoolers for 6 months, paying that teaching artist for that 6 month period, and it culminates in a public reading at the local library at the end of it. That project's going to cost maybe $200 per person. So sweet spot is a hard one. It depends on the project you're
Yeah.
proposing. And if you're proposing something that happens to have a very high cost per head ratio, you better have a very compelling argument in your proposal. In Muna's example, $44 per person for an outdoor festival will raise eyebrows in our outdoor festival panel. And if she wants to keep that $44 cost per head ratio, she might have a very compelling case in her proposal. We are going to be hiring LA's hardest to book, hardest to get, top authors and poets to come show up this event. It's a rare opportunity for people to experience at $0 ticket prices. This is why the cost per head ratio is expensive. That's one example of how you might defend a higher than usual cost per head ratio. So I hope that helps.
Yeah. Yeah, very good question. Yeah. All right. So as I mentioned, we're moving on to the next session, the financial and programmatic profile that we talked about in the first part of the webinar. So you will download the form here by clicking here. And this is where you are asked to enter at least the last two most recent fiscal years, preferably 3 years of your data. One note is that you are not required to submit this form if you are an emerging arts organization or if you are a non-arts focused 501c festival parade applicants. You will have alternate instructions such as you can instead upload a 990. So once you download and complete the financial and programmatic profile, you will upload it here. So that's what I've done. I uploaded the document here. And then if you are then asked if you have variances that you wish to explain, I clicked yes. And then, you can explain those variances here. Okay, great. So then the next section is you have additional space. This is an optional section. But basically, you can upload a snapshot of your organization current budget. And then if your organization's overall budget has variances of 25% or greater, you can also use the section to explain. So you have, an empty section here where you can do that. And there is no word limit for this field contrary to some other sections. So I will mark this section as complete, and then do that later. The next thing is the IRS letter. Just a very easy task here. Takes just a few minutes. You will upload a PDF copy of your organization 501c3, or for the outdoor festival and parade category 501c6 designation letter from the IRS. So once I've done that, that's it will be indicated by the green checked mark. Another relatively easy section is the list of your organization's board of directors. Here, we have seen a common pitfall is that an applicant will upload their own list of board of directors, and they will not use the template, the standard template that we have here. So make sure that you download this worksheet that is, linked here, and then complete it and then submit it. The reason for that is that it makes it easier for the panelists, and they will see the information of all the applications in the same standardized way. So I've done that. I've uploaded my board of directors list. And then the next thing I'm asked, the next section is the artistic and work samples. Really, really important section, as it will, as this is a section that allows the panelists to have an idea of your organization's work, the quality of your artistic samples. Here you have the choice to upload either some links to online videos, audio tracks, web pages, or other resources, or some images. Really think about which artistic sample is better suited for your proposal, and also which type demonstrates more the quality of your proposed project. Here I've chosen to include a link, as I am proposing an outdoor festival. So I really want to show the live interaction. I want to show the artists that were at the festival, and that's why video is better here. If you have a longer video, please make sure to indicate in the comment which section you want the panelists to see, because they will not spend 30 minutes on an artistic sample. So you can describe the minutes that you want the panelists to watch. And if you have other projects where images are better, that's perfectly fine. But please keep in mind that you are limited in the number of artistic samples you can submit. So if it's images that you choose, it's a maximum of 10, and if it's links, it's a maximum of 3. Okay. The supplementary materials. So what are those? Well, first of all, for attachment E, we ask you to upload your project location. And that is a simple document that leaves the site of your proposed project. So you will outline the name of your venue, where it is located, which council district it is, city council district it is in. Do you have a name and title of your contact person? And then how many years have you, presented at the site? All of this, and what is the audience capacity for the site? That way you really give a sense of the venue for the panelists. So you will be uploading that here as a PDF. Attachment B is a list of your prior paid artists. So please list them here, indicate a 2-3 sentence biography for the artists you've worked with in the past. And again, that really helps the panelists have a sense of who you've worked with in the past, the quality of the artist, as well as, sometimes you may not know exactly who all the artists you will be working with. So you can also show us who you've been working with for the past few years. Lastly, in this section, the supplementary section, material section, is the recent press material. So if you have an article, press material here, please upload it here. If you do not have any reviews, this is your opportunity to upload a letter of recommendation or a testimonial that you received from somebody who participated in your event. It was really enthusiastic, really excited and happy to have participated in your event. So do not leave that, it is required. So do not just upload a blank document. Make sure that you take advantage of this area. Attachment D, this is where you would upload the curriculum and lesson plans if you're proposing a SailCap project. Remember, this is a project for sequential arts in school learning, where you have culminating public events. But here I'm proposing an outdoor festival, so I'm checking the box. My project does not involve curriculum nor lesson plans. Then you have 2 other attachments, E and F. Those are optional, but encouraged. And as when you see encourage, optional but encourage, and actually we really recommend uploading that. So attachment E is your non-hours partners. Who have you been partnering with? Who are your presenting partners? List their names, addresses, and numbers of years that you've been working with them. And then letter of recommendation, again, more testimonials, more letter of recommendation from, either partners or from people who have participated in your project. Okay, so that's a really great section to demonstrate the strength of your organization and proposed project.
We have some questions regarding the supplementary materials. I can address. Actually, the first one is regarding artistic samples. How long should they be? So it's a great question regarding artistic samples in general. It's up to you as the applicant to curate an experience for the panelists that exceeds no longer than 5 or 6 minutes altogether. So think about that as you are considering video files to upload. If you're uploading a YouTube clip that is, 15 minutes long, think about editing it such that they will see only, a 30, 60 seconds snippet of what you want them to see. Absent that, you might provide a start time and time that you'd like the panelists to follow so they can see that. Panelists are asked to read a lot of proposals, and the artistic samples are one of the favorite parts to experience as part of being a grant reader. It takes their eyes off a page and away from reading words on a screen. So do dazzle them with some great videos and visuals, but do keep in mind that in all likelihood, panelists will not be spending more than 6 minutes or so altogether with your proposal.
Exactly.
We have another question regarding samples, images, and link. If you want to submit a combination of images and hyperlinks, what you might consider is selecting the links option, ensuring that one of your links points to a Dropbox folder, for example, or a PowerPoint slide deck with images that you'd like the panelists to see. So that's one way of being able to take advantage of a hybrid offering. But remember, keep in mind the 5 to 6 minute time frame that panelists will be giving to your proposal.
Yes.
We have a question regarding locations. If you're an applicant with additional project locations you're considering but haven't confirmed yet, that's not unusual. We are, after all, asking you to forecast activities many, many months in the future. So not a problem that everything is not locked and 100% guaranteed. We are asking that you be thoughtful about the locations you pick and ensure there's some level of strategic thinking about that. I think one of the earlier questions, the proposal asks you to select no more than 4 council districts. We don't want you selecting all 15 if you're planning a range of activities across the city. There should be some rhyme or reason with the council districts you're picking. Are you focusing on the San Fernando Valley, South LA? Those council districts kind of reflect that. But you'll see one attachment A that Muna just went over is about your project locations. We're not asking for a signature from your venue operator. We're asking you as the applicant to tell us, indicate kind of like your confidence that you'll be going into those locations by indicating how many years you've been or have had a relationship with that venue, and indicating and so panelists will take that information and understand that, oh, they've been working with this venue for the last 10 years. In all likelihood, they'll be able to produce their event there. If on the other hand, you have a new location that you want to explore, you'll enter 0 years of partnership. Panelists can see that and they'll understand this is a new location that the applicant's considering, maybe a less likelihood of actually going there. But so that's a way to incorporate some level of flexibility in your proposal.
Yes, thank you, Ben. And just going back to the artistic work samples, if you are including a link to a Drive folder, for example, a Google Drive, Dropbox, make sure that your links are not password protected. That's a common pitfall we've seen, so something to keep in mind. All right, well, we're nearing the end of the application, so that's great. At this point, after uploading the supplementary materials, what you'll be asked to do is to complete a project's estimated service metrics. Here it's the first part is race and ethnicity demographics, and you can estimate the numbers here. So you'll answer that. And then the second one is the age range and engagement. Once again, you have like several age groups and you can estimate your program attendance. This is also very helpful for us and for panelists to know how you are planning to reach, these people, and this is where you're gonna indicate all of that. So new media, e-blast, podcast, websites, social media, sites, printed materials, especially if you're doing an outdoor festival. I know that flyers are are used a lot. So this is, all this section is where you'll indicate those types of metrics. The fourth one is the workforce development. So you'll enter the estimated number of the paying jobs, the volunteer opportunities that you will be created and maintained through the purpose project. So this is your administrative staff, artist performers, even consultants, technical workers, and then you can enter, if they're full-time, part-time, occasional, or volunteers. Okay, so that was the project estimated service metrics. And after that, I have another section. It is optional, but we really encourage you to fill out this section. Basically, you tell us a little bit more about you and how you found the application process. We really take your comments into consideration to improve each year. So I know the application is a long process, but if you can take a couple of minutes to complete that application, that would be great. Let's say I've done it here. So I have filled out this section. I have included some feedback, whether positive or constructive, and then I will mark the section as complete. So as you can see now, pretty much all of my sections have the green check marks, and that's great. The only one that doesn't have the green check marks is this one, and I want to go back to it. So I click on it, and it's because I had not marked it as complete. So that's sometimes you may have done everything, you may have completed it, but you may have forgotten to just mark the section as complete. So all you need to do is click on that button. And that's it. You've completed all of the sections, and now you have the option to review all of your applications. And that's something we really recommend you take the time to do. So go over everything, proofread your proposal, look for any broken links, any discrepancies. Those are going to be important, especially in terms of administrative quality. So once you feel ready, you'll just click on that green button, which says submit your application, which I'll do. And you'll be asked to confirm that you are ready to submit your application. And that's it. It will give you a message that your application has been submitted. And the next step after that is you will receive a confirmation email. And in this email, you will have instructions for how to also submit your hard copy proposal and how to mail it to DCA. Again, the postmark, it should be posted and postmarked by the deadline, which is the September 3rd, 2025. So you'll also have a certification statement to have signed by your some board members and to include in the hard copy proposal. Okay, well, I'll stop here. That was the application portion. I hope this was helpful. And we have a little bit more time. So if folks want to stay and ask more questions, we can do that, especially for the last portion that we just went over. So thank you so much for your attention.
Right. Yes, folks, Muno and I will stick around for a few minutes. If you have some questions, feel free to use the chat and we'll address them here together. We have a question regarding application is disabled. The application should not be disabled. It's been live for the past month. So if you go to SurveyMonkey Apply using the link on the guidelines, I'll provide a link in the chat right now so you can access that. You should see it there and available. One common issue folks might come across is, as Muna mentioned earlier, you have to set your account as one where you are representing a nonprofit organization. Unless you've selected yourself as representing an organization, you won't see the application. So
Exactly.
let me get a link to SurveyMonkey Apply up there.
And that should be on the left side of your screen, and there is this drop down menu, and you'll see that there is your name as an individual, and then there should be the name of your organization. So you'll have to click on the name of your organization, and it will prompt you, it will show you after that the cultural grants program.
That's right.
But let us know if you have any issues. You can email us, after.
Right.
Any other questions that we can answer?
Okay, folks. Well, with that, let's call it a wrap. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. We'll be available to answer questions via email leading towards the deadline of the 29th August. Feel free to reach out to us. Response times will dramatically get slower as we approach the deadline because there tends to be a deluge of last-minute questions. So the sooner you get your questions to us, the more we'll be helpful. So please try to do so.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, and we look forward to your applications. Good luck, everybody.
All right. Have a great evening, folks.
Bye.